Hi, my name is Usman, and today I will be discussing whether or not the modern interpretation and implementation of the Second Amendment is democratic. First, it's important to establish the political definition of modern democracy. Modern democracy, according to its definition in Merriam-Webster, is a system based on a government by the people, ruled by majority. The most important concepts of democracy are: A. The supreme power over the nation is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation involving periodically held elections. The second part, which is what we'll be focusing on today, is that the common citizens are all viewed as equals under the laws of the nation, and each individual is given a subset of rights, privileges, and freedoms. Under the laws of our nation, which are foundationally based off the Bill of Rights, all individuals are given the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to petition, freedom to peacefully assemble, etc., etc., etc. However, one of the most controversial of these amendments to this day is the right to bear arms. This is an amendment that's been under debate for decades, with many people arguing about whether or not the restrictions put on the Second Amendment makes the U.S. less democratic. This would be concerning gun control. To this debate as to whether or not the current implementation of the right to bear arms in our country is truly democratic, there are two main sides. One side, consisting of those who are anti-gun control, is supported by mostly gun control abolitionists, the NRA, conservatives, etc. Individuals on this side argue simply that the right to bear arms is a constitutional and democratic right. To abridge or control this is to sacrifice our democratic ideals. The right to bear arms was given to the people of the United States of America, the land of liberty, by its founding fathers. If the federal or state government is attempting to restrict our given and deserved rights, not only does this go against the fundamentals of democracy and liberty in this country, but it alters what the founding fathers envisioned for America. The other main side, consisting of individuals who are pro-gun control, is supported by liberals, most Democrats, libertarians, etc. The individuals from this viewpoint set up a more complex, multi-layered opposition. Firstly, the Second Amendment doesn't give the common people the right to bear arms. The amendment, as written by the Founding Fathers, states that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A word often ignored in this amendment is the word militia, which refers to army and security forces. In 1939, there was a Supreme Court ruling that stated that the Second Amendment must be interpreted and applied with the view of its purpose of rendering effective militia, meaning that the Second Amendment was not meant or signifying for the common people. It wasn't until 2008, actually, that this ruling was extended to cover self-defense within the homes of common citizens. This viewpoint also offered that the Founding Fathers themselves put restriction on guns, more restriction than are present today. But even taking all this in, it's also important to see that the second viewpoint I talked about of pro-gun control falls short when it comes to if gun control is democratic. This viewpoint repeatedly ascertains that the concept of gun control was respected and utilized by the Founding Fathers, and that the Supreme Court ruled that the right to bear arms is limited when it comes to the common people. However, this only proves that gun control is constitutional. One of the main principles behind democracy, as stated earlier, is the concept of power to the people, with the main idea being that people are given rights and liberties. By limiting the right to self-defense and the right to bear arms, the U.S. limits its adherence to the concept of democracy. Also, by allowing one person to own and use a gun rather than another, which is judged through the use of background checks for when you're trying to buy a gun, the U.S. creates a situation where all the common people are not viewed as equals in the eyes of the law, which is against democracy. To summarize, what this means is that in its interpretation and implementation of the Second Amendment, including its use of gun control, the USA limits its own democracy when it limits gun usage and ownership, whether it be with background checks or restricting the use of automatic weaponry. This also shows that the USA holds other priorities with precedence over democratic values. And in this case, fortunately for us, the USA is more concerned with the safety and security of the common people than its upholding of democracy, which is why it makes sure that only the right people have guns, and that only the safest guns are available to the public. So, to recap the content of this video, when it comes to the Second Amendment, the USA is not entirely democratic, and that's not a bad thing.